Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
All right, welcome back to Outlaws, Gunslingers, Mafia edition. Coming back once again with some more Lucchese's. Almost about to wrap these guys up, but today we got one guy you've heard of a lot in the last few episodes, Christopher Furnari. But before we get to him, we got the one that you all know from the old Goodfellas, old Paul Vario. He was a member of the Lucchese crime family. He had his own crew in Brooklyn. Everybody knows him from, like I said, Goodfellas, underboss, eventually underboss for a minute here in the Lucchese crime family, but obviously had his own crew in Brooklyn. He's, speaking of Brooklyn, that's where he grew up, earliest 20th century, tough as nails, barely any legit ways to get ahead.
All right.
That's the old world that old Paulie is born into, July 10th, 1914. Growing up, he figured out quick that to survive, he had to be sharp, slick, ready to play dirty, especially in Old Mill, which is the neighborhood he grew up in. As a kid, he started small, doing little jobs for the local gangsters, running errands, that kind of thing. Hearing the rep as a dependable guy, he's a dependable guy. He knew how to be quiet, which was gold in that world.
Damn right.
What is he, Henry Hill?
Right.
According to Henry Hill and Nicholas Pileggi, who wrote the book Wise Guy about Hill's life, Paulie, he got sent to juvenile detention for 7 months when he was only 11 for skipping school.
Oh, damn.
Juvie, huh?
Damn, for 11 months? Holy shit. That juvenile detention stint didn't slow Paulie down, not one bit, fella. He kept running with gangsters and mobsters. What's the difference? Building...
Gangster is just a gangster.
All right. Building those connections, he had to do it. And he got real tight with the New York's Lucchese crime family. But Paulie had a dark side that showed up plenty. According to the big heist by Anthony DeStefano in 1937, when he was in his early 20s, a 16-year-old girl pointed him out as one of the guys who had sexually assaulted her.
Oh.
He got convicted of rape, and he got slapped with a 10 to 20-year sentence in Sing Sing prison.
Oh.
Wow, he's a little rapist, huh? Get out here, you rapist.
Well, he did manage to get paroled twice, but both times he messed it up, breaking his parole and landing back inside. Because he kept getting busted for stuff like burglary and dealing stolen goods. He finally completed his sentence in 1962. Every time he walked out of prison, the Lucchese family welcomed him back like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
He was so good at handling business, getting stuff done, no questions asked, that they made him a full-on made man.
Oh.
And eventually a capo, running his own crew.
Look at that.
And he just kept climbing the ranks no matter what.
Look at
When
this.
you earn, dude, they don't care.
Once he was out, he started running his game out of his old school German bar called the Gipkins. This was on Flatlands Avenue. And he also ran a junkyard on Avenue D in Canarsie. That junkyard was his headquarters. Well, that's what people said. He was overseeing all kinds of shady shit. Like hijackings, loan sharking, bookmaking, fencing stolen goods as well. His crew was deep into sketchy stuff at JFK Airport. Shaking down shippers and airlines for cash to keep peace. Some of his big name associates were guys like Thomas DeSimone. And, you guessed it, Hank Hill.
Hank Hill. Well, the Goodfellas. In Goodfellas, Paulie Cicero comes off as this cool, calculated mob boss, but the real Paulie, he had a temper that could go off like a firecracker, they say. There's this one story from the book Wise Guy that claims Paulie takes his wife Phyllis out to dinner at this place called Don Pepe's Vesuvio. Hey, Vesuvio, ain't that from the restaurant name of Artie's from Sopranos?
I think so.
They're waiting to be seated, but the maitre d' kept letting other people go first. Paulie's getting heated, grumbling loud about the wait. They finally do get a table, but you can tell the maitre d' is annoyed with them.
Uh-oh. It gets worse. Paulie orders wine. The guy pouring it, maybe by accident, spills it all over Phyllis's dress. You don't do that. Henry Hill tells it like Paulie's about to explode at this point. But when the maitre d' pulls out some grimy rag and starts wiping at Phyllis's dress, putting his hands all over it, that's it. Paulie flips the table, starts smacking the guy around. He only gets a couple swings in before the dude bolts to the kitchen. And when Paulie yells for him to come out, a bunch of waiters block the door with pans and knives. Oh, shit. Ting, ting.
Well, Paulie, he wasn't letting it slide. It was later that night when the restaurant's closing.
Ooh.
Paulie's already got his revenge plan. He sends a crew, which included Henry Hill, to mess up the staff with baseball bats and pipes. And these guys, they don't even blink. Hill said it best. It was so easy. Lump them up, Whack him out. Nobody ever thought, why? What for? That's how loyal we was to Paulie.
Oh, whatever he say, we do. We don't need to ask why. Just do it.
You don't fucking question the boss.
Well, Paul, he kept building his empire after that. In 1965, Jake Colombo dead. Paul swooped in to take over his illegal gambling rackets in Cedarhurst and also in Inwood, which is on Long Island. But later that year, the heat came down. Long Island cops nabbed him up and 8 others for running a gambling ring. Then, February 1966, slapped again with federal charges in Brooklyn for not having a gambling stamp.
So they didn't care about him gambling. They just didn't care that they cared that they weren't getting their slides.
Exactly.
Well, a few months later in June, Nassau County rounded him up with about 17 others for a bookmaking operation. Couldn't catch a break at this point. On the side, Paul had some legit businesses going, though. He had a flower shop, a bar, a restaurant, even a taxi stand.
Oh, no shit.
But one spot, which was Vario's Bargain Auto Parts, Inc., that's where he handled a lot of his dirty work with his crew, his junkyard.
All right.
At his peak, they say he was pulling in about $25,000 a day from all his illegal hustles.
Damn.
A day? Wow.
Henry Hill even said Paul once bragged about stashing a cool $1 million in a single vault. During this whole time, he was also playing the role of an unofficial consigliere to the Lucchese boss Carmine Tremonti. 1970. Old Paulie got himself into hot water again. This time, contempt of court. Ooh. This landed him 7 months in the Nassau County Correctional Facility, which is also on Long Island. This guy just couldn't stay out of trouble.
He sure didn't, because things about to get hot again in April of 72. Cops, they're onto him and snuck a bug into his trailer at the Carnarsie junkyard to listen in. They even had this detective roll up wearing a wire, pretending to be a crooked cop.
Uh-huh.
Well, Paulie, he totally bought it and started offering the guy bribes. Oh, jeez.
Wow.
The whole sting went on for like about 6 months, building the case against him. And he just kept talking.
Damn, by October 1972, the heat came down hard. Cops raided his junkyard. Then on the 1st of November, they hit him again with an indictment for tampering with a witness. Apparently, he told his convicted gambler, Frank Heitman, to hightail it out to Florida, dodge a grand jury in Nassau County. When they went to arrest old Paulie, he led them on a 20-minute car chase through Brooklyn before finally pulling over. Oh, shit.
Jeez.
The motherfucker's like, I ain't going back.
A few weeks later, November 21st, he got indicted again.
Son of a bitch.
This time for insurance fraud.
Ooh, that's the one.
Him and his buddies stripped a boat, sank it, and tried to cash in on a $7,000 insurance claim. That's
Really?
it. Then, December 7th, they nailed him for trying to bribe that undercover cop at the trailer. And to top it all off, that same December, he pleaded guilty to drunk driving.
Oh, fuck.
He got probation for that, but old classic Paulie, he screwed it up and was back in jail by February of 73.
Wow.
Jeez, Paulie, what are you doing? Why didn't they make a movie about this guy?
Right. The charges and all the bullshit just kept on piling on Paulie. February 9th, 1973. Convicted for tax evasion. By the 6th of April, they sentenced him to 6 years in federal prison. Off he went, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. That's where he got locked up with this notorious crew of mob guys they called Mafia Row. Something straight out of a movie, that sounds like to me, huh?
Yeah, I wonder why.
Wow. So 1975, old Paulie finally got out of federal prison. He'd been a big deal as the underboss for the Lucchese crime family. But while he was locked up, there's a new boss in town, Anthony Corallo. Swapped him out for Salvatore Santoro and said, sorry, bud, this guy don't go to jail.
Right. Well, once he was paroled, Paul packed up and moved to a spot near Miami, probably to lay low. Fast forward to 78, he's still got his hands in the game, even from Florida. His crew comes to him with this wild plan for what ends up being the infamous Lufthansa Heist at JFK.
Oh, no.
They pitch it to him over the phone, idiots. And Paul's like, yeah, let's do it. But he makes it clear that Jimmy Burke, who's in prison at the time, has to call the shots.
Oh.
December 78, the crew pulls it off big time. They snagged about $5 million in cash plus another $875,000 in jewelry.
Damn.
Which, if you add it up in today's money, that's about $28.3 million.
Ooh,
Holy shit, dude.
You can retire, motherfuckers. But
Yeah,
guess
right.
what? One of the crew's members for the heist, Parnell Edwards, they call him Stacks, fucking screwed up big time. He left the getaway car in a no parking zone with his fingerprints all over it. Talk about a rookie move, huh? That got Paulie and Burke super paranoid. They were like, man, the cops are going to piece it all together now. So, to cover the tracks, Edwards and a bunch of other guys tied to the heist ended up getting whacked.
Yeah, you've seen the famous montage scene of everybody getting whacked in Goodfellas.
Right. Henny Hill, though, he was still breathing and about to flip and turn informant. Big trouble was brewing for Paulie's crew.
Sure was. February 9th, 1984. He got hit with a conviction for defrauding the feds. The feds. 1980, back before that, no. Henry Hill gets busted on drug trafficking charges. And that's when the whole real-life Goodfellas world starts falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Old Paulie and Jimmy, they're scrambling to clean up loose ends after the heist. But taking out Hill wasn't at the top of their list. Still, the cops had secretly recorded them talking about maybe whacking him.
Oh.
And that played the tape for him while he was locked up.
Ooh.
And Henry's like, I don't know about that, buddy.
Yeah, that's enough. So Henry's like, oh, shit, after he hears that. He realizes loyalty to Vario and Burke doesn't mean jack shit to them anymore. It's like they never even knew him. So he flips, and he flips hard, spilling the beans on both of them and a bunch of other bullshit. And even more mobsters, tying them all kinds of crimes. Like, you don't even believe the shit that they did. Like, oh, man, we didn't even know that. No, you do. He also says that old Paulie, he set up a fake restaurant job for him to spring him from prison. That little scheme landed Paulie in hot water on the 3rd of April.
Yeah, they didn't care about nothing else, but you just faked a restaurant job?
Right, on the 3rd of April in 1984. He got sentenced to 4 years in federal lockup, plus a hefty $10,000 fine. Hefty.
Well, typical Paulie fashion. While he's serving that sentence, it gets worse. February 21st, 1985, he gets indicted again.
Damn.
This time for a racketeering conspiracy tied to extortion.
Oh, no.
He and his crew were shaking down air cargo companies at JFK Airport for over $350,000,
Damn.
threatening them with labor chaos if they didn't pay up. Hill's testimony helped seal the deal again, and this time Paulie got slapped with another 10-year sentence for extortion.
Not very long sentencing here, huh? Sadly, that was the last time he would be indicted or convicted of any felony or crime, because Paul didn't make it out of prison. While he was locked up, his health started going downhill fast. Prison life was rough. His age, it hit him hard. His lawyers tried to pull some strings, pushing for early release because of medical issues. But nope. Court said, ain't having it. This motherfucker's been in and out of prison for fucking 30 years. His rap sheet was way too long. Evidence against him was rock solid. Appeals, sentence reductions, none of that worked out. 3rd of May, 1988, Paul Vario passed in prison, age of 73. Respiratory arrest caused by chronic obstructive lung disease. Oh. A couple of years later, his life got immortalized in Goodfellas as the character Paulie Cicero, locking in his spot as a notorious figure in pop culture. Laid him to rest at St. John's Cemetery in Middle Village, Queens, New York.
Sure did.
Paul Vario, the troubled gangster.
Well, Paul was married to his wife Vita. They had 3 boys, Peter, Paul Jr., and Leonard. Things didn't last with Vita as usual, and he ended up marrying Phyllis later on. July 20th, 1973, his son Leonard died from these awful burns at Wyckoff Heights Medical Center in Brooklyn.
Oh, fuck.
Nobody ever figured out how it happened. At the funeral, things got so heated that the mourners went after 2 TV cameramen and a cop beating them up.
Oh, shit.
That's Paulie and his family and Paulie and his story.
Okay, Paulie.
Wow. No movie for him, huh?
Yeah, you think you would have had something, right?
Right. Well, that'll bring us to
Christie Tick.
Guy we've heard plenty of times in these last few episodes, Christopher Furnari. Call him Christie Tick. Well, he was born in 1924 in New York to first-generation Sicilian-Italian immigrants from Furnari, which was a commune in Sicily's province of Messina.
They're named after...
I guess so.
Oh, okay.
Growing up in Brooklyn, he was steeped in a hard Scrabble world where crime offered a fast track to power.
All right.
By age 15, he was already running his own loan sharking operations, strong-arming borrowers across Brooklyn and northern New Jersey with an early knack for profit and intimidation.
Fuck yeah, he was.
His teenage years were marked by escalating trouble. By 1943, at just 19, he had already served 2 prison terms for armed robbery, which showcased the reckless streak that isn't even over yet.
That very same year, Furnari, he faced a graver charge when he and several others were arrested with 3 girls in a car and accused of rape.
Jeez, what is it with these guys?
All right, landing him in a sentence of 15 to 30. A heavy mark on his record that reflected the violent undercurrents of his early life. So he got paroled in 1956. He didn't slow down one bit. He leveraged a connection with mobster Anthony Corallo. They call him Tony Ducks. He wanted to become an associate of the Lucchese crime family. In the late 50s, he dove headfirst into illegal gambling and loan sharking. And he built himself a fine reputation as a reliable earner. He's a reliable earner. You know, you're safe if you're. He's a good earner, though. But he's got a mouth on him, Tony.
Yeah, but he earns.
You bringing in how much he's bringing a month? You gonna cover that?
All right.
No, Tony, I'm not.
His hustle paid off because Furnari became a pivotal figure in the Lucchese family's Brooklyn faction, which was a less dominant branch compared to the family's Manhattan and Bronx stronghold.
Right.
By the early 60s, Furnari was raking in an astonishing $25,000 a day, a fortune in that era. Yeah, it's the 50s, cementing his influence. 1962 at age 38, already 38 and 62.
Damn.
He was formally inducted as made man, and by 64, he rose to capo, leading a crew from the 19th hole, which was a nondescript bar and social club in Bensonhurst that served as his criminal headquarters. Bensonhurst, wasn't that where the Raven Night Club with John Gotti was?
Sure. Sounds familiar. 19th hole was the nerve center of Furnari's empire. A place where mobsters from all 5 families could rub elbows together. They cut deals. They socialized over drinks. They even had plates of pasta. Furnari's crew was a versatile outfit running illegal gambling, loan sharking, extortion, burglary, narcotics, occasional murder for hire.
Occasionally.
And rackets and unions and construction, obviously. Everything a mobster would do.
Right.
His criminal record by this time included convictions for assault and sex offenses, a reflection of his willingness to cross moral and legal lines.
One of his most lucrative schemes around this time was controlling New York District Council 9, which was a union representing about 6,000 painters and decorators who worked on hotels, bridges, and subway stations.
All right.
Through Union Secretary-Treasurer James Bishop and his associate Frank Arnold, Furnari extorted a 10 to 15% tax on major commercial painting contracts, with contractors funneling cash kickbacks directly to him, bolstering his wealth and clout. By the mid-60s, he spotted talent in 2 young, ruthless associates who we all know as Vic Amuso and old Anthony Gaspipe Casso.
Yep.
Casso.
Look at that shit.
Should have left them guys alone.
You ain't kidding. Recognizing their ambition and readiness to use violence. He said, you know what? You'd be perfect for my crew, and he brought them along, assigning them to oversee a large bookmaking operation. And he also wanted them to collect debt. Furnari's mentorship shaped their rise, setting the stage for their future dominance. 67. The Lucchese family faced a leadership shakeup when then boss Thomas Lucchese dead, brain tumor. Carmine Tramonte, he stepped up as the interim boss. But the real successor, as you all know, is Anthony Corallo. But he was sidelined by a 1967 bribery conviction, serving 2 years in prison. Tramonte, he held the reins even after Corallo's release in 1970, until Tramonte's own imprisonment in 1973 allowed Corallo to claim the official boss title.
It all worked out, huh?
Yeah, usually does.
As we all know, in the early 70s, the families opened up the books again, which allowed a new wave of associates to become a made man. Furnari seized the opportunity, sponsored Amuso and Casso for membership, and appointed them to lead the Bypass Gang, which was the sophisticated burglary ring that plundered hundreds of millions in cash, jewelry, and merchandise during the 70s and 80s.
All right.
In January of 72, he sanctioned one of the gang's boldest heists, which was the robbery of the Pierre Hotel in Manhattan.
Okay.
Where 8 armed robbers were Robert Comfort, Sammy Nallo, Donald Tony the Greek Francos, Al Green, Ali Ben, Robert Bobby Germain, Al Visconti, and an unnamed 8th man. They stole about $3 million in jewels and cash.
Damn.
Jeez. This heist remains the largest unrecovered hotel robbery in history, with only a $780,000 diamond necklace recovered and no perps ever confessing. Where the hell did they find that $780,000 diamond necklace at?
That's a hell of a diamond necklace. Damn.
Jeez.
1980, Furnari's influence peaked when he was promoted to consigliere, or there's a million ways to say it. The family's third in command, that's who he was. He advised the boss and mediated disputes. He wanted Casso to succeed him as capo of the 19th hole crew. But he declined, endorsing Amuso, as we all know. He said, let Vic do it, and opting to serve as Furnari's personal aide, a rare privilege for a soldier. Furnari's clout extended beyond the Lucchese family, earning him respect among New York's other families, and even crime syndicates nationwide. He balanced his role as consigliere with hands-on oversight of his 19th hole rackets, arbitrating family conflicts, and settling inter-family disputes, reigning as one of New York's top mafia bosses through the early 80s. Good for him.
Well, early 86, he orchestrated a lucrative new racket. A Russian-American gangster, we've heard the story a million times already. Marat Balagula, who's a Ukrainian immigrant running a gasoline bootlegging operation in Brooklyn's Brighton Beach.
Yep.
He was skimming profits by collecting taxes from customers without paying the government. When Colombo family capo Michael Franzese demanded extortion payments, Balagula turned to Furnari for protection.
Hey, look at that shit. At a 19th hole meeting, Furnari told Balagula, "Here, there's enough for everybody to be happy, to leave the table satisfied. What we must avoid is trouble between us and the other families. I propose make a deal with the others so there's no bad blood. Meanwhile, we will send word out that from now on, you and your people are with the Lucchese family. Ooh, no one will bother you. If anyone does..."
Except for other Russians.
Right. If anyone does, come to us. Anthony take care of it. Look at that shit. That's what he told Balagula.
Right. The 5 families imposed a 2-cent per gallon family tax on Balagula's operation. A cash cow rivaled only by drug trafficking. But the deal drew ire from the Russian underworld, who saw Balagula as weak for paying off the Italians.
Sure and fuck did.
June 12, 1986, Balagula's rival, Vladimir Reznikov, he stormed in Balagula's Brighton Beach nightclub, pressed a 9mm Beretta to his skull, and demanded $600,000 plus a cut of his rackets. He said, "Fuck with me and you're dead. You and your whole fucking family.
And they ain't lying.
I swear I'll fucking kill your wife as you watch, you understand?" But he said it with a Russian accent.
Right. Balagula, he was shaking, and it caused him to have a massive heart attack after Reznikov left. He called up Casso for help from his Brighton Beach home. Casso instructed Balagula to lure Reznikov back to the club with promises of payment. Tell him you got his money. Tell him to meet you at the club. The very next day, Lucchese soldier Joseph Testa ambushed and shot Reznikov dead,
back of the head,
ensuring Balagula's safety. Casso later boasted, "After that, Marat didn't have any problems with other Russians."
I bet not. Furnari's empire unraveled February 25th, 1985.
It usually does.
When him and a bunch of others were indicted in the Mafia Commission case.
That's crazy.
Which
got caught with that RICO.
Pretty much everybody got sentenced to like 100 years.
Yeah.
The FBI's probe, using undercover surveillance and a bug in Salvatore Avellino's Jaguar, it captured Furnari discussing business with Corallo and other Lucchese leaders. Charged with extortion, labor racketeering into construction, and the 1979 murder for hire of Bonanno boss Carmine Galante, allegedly ordered by the commission.
Right.
Furnari pleaded not guilty and was released on $1.75 million bail.
Damn.
Some argue Furnari wasn't on the commission and had no link to Galante's hit, but he couldn't use this defense.
Nope. There's no such thing. Right. September 1986. He stood trial alongside Corallo and underboss Salvatore Santoro. By that fall, Corallo realized conviction was inevitable, with sentences ensuring they die in prison. Furnari convinced Corallo to name either Amuso or Casso as the new boss. At a meeting at Furnari's home, the trio agreed Amuso as Corallo's successor.
Well, they wanted Casso,
and he said
Casso
no.
was like, no, we'll let Amuso do it.
Right. 19th of November, 1986. Furnari, convicted on all accounts, including the Galante murder. January 13th, 1987, sentenced to 100 years without parole. And they're going to take $240,000 in fines.
You think?
He's never leaving prison.
No. With Corallo and Furnari in prison, Amuso, he becomes the boss. Casso, consigliere, later underboss. And Peter Fat Pete Chiodo took over as Furnari's Bensonhurst crew.
Bang.
1990, Amuso, Casso, they went fugitive to evade the Windows case. Amuso caught in 92 and sentenced to life. While Casso, captured in 93, he turned into a snitch in 94, testified against Furnari and others.
Oh, wow.
1995, who cares? Furnari's already in prison for 100 years.
Right.
95, Furnari challenges parole denial, arguing Casso's testimony was tainted.
No.
He's a criminal. He's a scum. Look at him.
Right.
The government revoked Casso's deal in 96, sentenced him to life.
Oh.
July of 2000, the Third Circuit ruled that parole officers or officials wrongly denied Furnari's eligibility based on Casso's claims. But in 2001, the Bureau of Prisons labeled him a multiple murderer, blocking parole. Furnari's 2006 habeas corpus petition was also denied in 2007. You ain't getting out, buddy.
No, you can try all you want. In prison at Allenwood Medium Federal Correctional Institution, Pennsylvania. Projected release date of November 24, 2044. Furnari's pre-1988 conviction made him parole eligible in 1996. likely due to weak evidence in his murder conviction. He was granted early release from a Minnesota prison hospital on September 19, 2014, after 28 years.
They let him out, but they wouldn't let Paulie out?
Right. He returned to Staten Island in New York, where he died at his home, 28th of May, 2018, the age of 93. Yeah. You got 4 solid years, I guess.
I guess. Wow. All right. That's Furnari. And Vario next month on Lucchese's. Well, I know there's not too many other people that have long stories. But basically, you're going to hear the same stories we've already heard. So we'll probably wrap up the Lucchese's finally after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It'll be about 10 months on these guys. So, yeah, we'll probably wrap it up with Henry Hill's story next week to wrap it all up and move on to the Columbos. No, we did Columbos, right?
I think so, huh?
Gambino, Lucchese, Bonanno, Genevieve. Yeah, the Columbos are next.
Oh,
so.
This ought to be fun.
Yeah. Well, Columbos, Michael Franzese, he's all over the place on YouTube, so he's one of those guys from that family. So, yeah, we'll wrap it up with Henry Hill next month, but next week we're right back into motorcycle clubs, which we wrapped up Outlaws last month, so we'll probably move on to somebody.
Never know. Mongols.
Where did the Mongols? The the Banditos maybe or something. Either or. And then we'll have more prohibition and round out the month with some more serial killing.
Murder.
You know that. We'll be back next week for more Outlaws and Gunslingers. We'll see you then with the month of Michiganers.
Bang.